It has been more than a year since the conflict between Russia and Ukraine began. Despite not being a direct participant in the war, America is intently observing what Russia is doing. Since the invasion on Ukraine in February, the Russian submarine fleet has grown in the Black Sea, which has alarmed military experts. There are even rumors that Russia might be stationing more submarines near the coast of America and in the Mediterranean. Furthermore, military observers and commanders in the United States are raising the alarm. In December of last year, Russian President Vladimir Putin announced that the government intended to build more nuclear-powered submarines in order to ensure its security for an extended period of time. According to reports, there are indications that nuclear-powered submarines are stationed close to U.S. coasts in the Mediterranean and Europe, according to Michael Peterson, the director of the Russia Maritime Studies Institute. The Russian Navy has a number of submarines equipped with ballistic missiles capable of carrying nuclear weapons. Following the disintegration of the Soviet Union in 1991, Russia began modernizing its submarine fleet. Additionally, Russia has recently built submarines that are capable of reaching both Europe and America. Submarine fiber optic lines that link Africa and span seas are currently a Western geopolitical flashpoint. The U.S. is now concentrating on strategic moves in reaction to China's surveillance balloon and its intentions to outlaw the most popular app globally, TikTok, because of its ties to Beijing. Plans to extend cable networks are being carried out by international partners and investors. Officials warn that there are still other national security threats that the West needs to be aware of. Undersea cables and ICT could be used by authoritarian regimes in Africa as contemporary pressure points to oust Western influence and obtain a competitive advantage. Africa is currently seeing a notable surge in the expansion of international bandwidth due to the faster building of subsea cables. Although China is benefiting from this expansion, there remains a security concern because of the possibility of Russian intervention. According to experts, the West shouldn't undervalue the impact of expanding African underwater cables on contemporary global power geopolitical strategies. However, international leaders are beginning to understand that undersea cables are vulnerable to breaking or damage. The prospect of sabotage on fiber optic cables is a topic of frequent discussion, which worries legislators and business executives. Although natural or unintentional hazards account for the majority of threats, deliberate attacks on these vital cables are an increasing source of concern. The Kremlin is reportedly able to shut down foreign internet connections. More than China, the Russian government is heavily dependent on harmful cyber attacks. In 2015, they successfully took down power grids in Ukraine by targeting systems. A wide spectrum of entities execute information operations and cyber attacks against those who oppose Putin's rule, including front companies, state agencies, and recruited cybercriminals. Keyboards and coding are not the only technological tools that Russia uses as weaponry. They can target physical internet infrastructure, such as underwater cables, to generate public panic and unrest, hinder economic activity, and interrupt communication. Russia poses a serious threat to undersea cables in Africa because of their exceptional proficiency operating on the seabed. Additionally, they can conduct espionage and combat on the ocean floor with their military and navy. For NATO officials, who are already on edge over Russia's invasion of Ukraine, this is especially troubling. For many years, Russia's main Directorate of Deep Sea Research has been developing seabed warfare capabilities that they can use at any time. Moreover, Russia kept an eye on UK submarine cables while it was at war with Ukraine. In 2014, Russia invaded and seized Crimea, purportedly causing damage to Ukrtelecom's communication cables. Due to the partial disruption of internet connectivity, the Kremlin was able to exert more influence over the area and the global public's ability to observe the fight. This indicates that the Kremlin is aware of the tangible components of internet compulsion and control. Over the past 20 years, Russia's military strategy has placed a greater emphasis on the importance of hardware, software, and cognitive control in combat. Western officials have taken notice of this tendency. The head of the UK military has lately issued a warning that Moscow may potentially disrupt global internet access if Russian naval operations endanger underwater cables. Researchers have now looked into the possibility of cable damage during conflicts. Certain cases may be overstated, while others may be underestimated. Risks of military exploitation persist even in the absence of a major conflict. British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak is concerned that hostile entities like Russia could target the Atlantic Ocean cables. Sunak views the growing possibility of submarine cable attacks, particularly those by Russia, as a serious danger to the national security of the United Kingdom. He stresses that action must be taken immediately and exhorts everyone to cooperate in order to resolve the situation. Sunak also emphasizes how crucial it is to safeguard the biggest invention of the century in order to save it from being its undoing. Russia's naval and military forces are incredibly powerful and can undertake underwater spying and combat. They actually pose a serious threat to African underwater cables since they are the best in the world at seabed operations. NATO leaders' fears about security have intensified as a result of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The main Directorate of Deep Sea Research, one of its well-established departments, is dedicated to creating technology for seabed warfare. Russia demonstrated its cyber warfare skills by closely monitoring the UK's subsea cables during the conflict with Ukraine. Although Moscow might not be able to wipe out the West's internet entirely, they might still harm some targets if they made an effort. Although the cause of the explosions at the Nord Stream gas pipelines remains unknown, many speculated that it might be sabotage. People became aware of the significance of connecting to computer systems and safeguarding underwater infrastructure as a result of this incident. Russia's president, Vladimir Putin, is aware of the potential effects of disruption. Russia has a strong fleet that operates outside its territorial seas. Major backers of cyber activities that may impact cables include China and Russia. They are adept at managing networks to restrict internet speech. Furthermore, there is an increasing level of military cooperation between the two countries. Global superpowers are currently interested in Africa, and there's a good probability they will cross paths and face off. The United States is especially worried about severing ties with Africa, but due to a few missteps, its attempts to make amends have not succeeded. Because it may result in political power, China's long-term economic influence over Africa is also a reason for concern. The goal of the December US-Africa Leaders Summit was to fortify relationships that might have been compromised under the Trump administration. Although the summit made a lot of promises and commitments, the results will really show how successful it was. Despite exercising their independence in the international arena, African states continue to occupy a difficult middle ground. Recent attempts by the West to interact with Africa are a recognition of the continent's cultural significance and economic promise. Africa is essential to the future of developing technology since it is home to the 10 nations with the youngest demography in the world. But being viewed as a pawn in a geopolitical game can breed animosity. Russian nuclear-powered submarines operating off U.S. coasts, in the opinion of U.S. Air Force General Glenn Van Herk, are similar to those during the Cold War. According to him, Russia is the biggest challenge the U.S. is facing right now. Although the exact number of Russian submarines engaged in underwater operations is unknown, experts surmise that the number has expanded dramatically over the previous 20 years. What are your thoughts on Russia will use its submarine capabilities to rise above the U.S.? Let me know down below. If you want to continue to learn about business investing and financial education, we have got this video waiting on the screen for you to check out. Don't forget to give this video a like and subscribe for more videos like this. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.